Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be making Roman mosaics. So before we begin, we're just going to do a little bit of history on mosaics. So the ancient Roman Empire lasted from roughly 700 BC until its eventual fall in the 300s AD. And so mosaics were one of the types of art forms that were really common throughout the entire empire's history. What they were is they were essentially tiles laid down to look like patterns and pictures. And in these patterns and pictures, they usually told stories, and they range from topics such as like Roman mythology to other religious things, as well as more like mundane activities like fishing. So typically the tiles were made out of like anything that they could find that had some type of like color or like tint to it. So you could use like shells, marble, tile, glass, pottery, stone, pebbles, anything sort of along those lines. The tiles are usually extremely small. They were usually around 1 centimeter. However, there are tiles that are as small as like only a couple millimeters big. And so the idea was that you would, as you're working on it, you would focus on like one individual area, and then as you step back, you can see like the whole picture type of thing. So this technique originated from the civilization before ancient Rome. It's the ancient Greeks. But as we know, ancient Rome took a lot of their ideas from the ancient Greeks. So although the Greeks did it originally, their mosaics weren't as elaborate as the Roman ones would become. Typically, the mosaics were found in types of public buildings and also private homes, but usually they were only in the homes of like the extremely wealthy citizens. They were meant to be decorations of a sort, but the thing about them is that they kind of took the place of what we would think is like a decorative carpet or like a decorative rug, because mosaics were meant to be walked on. They weren't meant to be displayed on like walls and things like that, because since they're tile, they're super heavy. Another thing too, if anyone's familiar with how grouting works, that was the type of technique they used for mosaics as well. The idea is that to like hold the tiles into place, their glue would be a type of like mortar, and then you would have your like basic layer of mortar. You would put the tiles on top of that to get them stuck together, but you would want spaces between them. And this would just ensure that they would all kind of hold in their place and that they wouldn't fall off later. So you'd have like little spaces between each tile, and then as the mortar is drying underneath, you add on additional mortar on top, and you would kind of scrape it over all of the tiles to get it into all of those gaps. And as soon as that's all done and it's starting to dry, then you would take some type of like wet rag and you would polish off the mortar from on top of the tile, so you could see like the colors themselves, but they would stay in place, like I said. And that's a technique that we still use today, especially for like kitchen backsplashes. Okay, so now we can begin doing our own use this tape, Dana, sorry. So now we can begin doing our own mosaics. For our mosaics, we're not going to be using tile or mortar. Instead, we're going to be doing we're going to be doing a simpler version with canvas and tissue paper. In each of your kits, there should be 5 strips of tissue paper, a pot of glue, and a sponge. And you'll also have the blank canvas as well. And that's everything that you're going to need. Okay, so what I recommend doing is actually cutting up all of your tissue paper into squares, kind of like this size. And that's just so we can kind of mimic what the mosaic tiles might look like. Okay, so for the one that I'm going to show you, we're just going to kind of work with like some examples or some like inspiration for different patterns we can do. Yes, I will show you the technique. Okay, so for the glue pot, so this should be enough glue for your entire canvas. And it's a little bit liquidy, so be careful not to spill it over. So how we're going to start is we're going to take our sponge, we're just going to dip it into the glue. We don't need very much, only about that much. And then you're going to see where on the canvas you want to start. So I'm just going to make like a straight line of glue right here, I think. And you can add more too if you need to, and that's fine. Okay, so for the pattern, so if we wanted to do kind of like a mosaic type of pattern, we can we can choose to either have space between our tiles, like, let me see. We can have space between our tiles. So it looks something like that. And we have that gap. Or if you want to, you can also choose to have them overlap, since we are using tissue paper. So if you want to overlap, I know with some of the lighter colors, like the whites, pinks, or yellows, these ones are pretty thin. So if there's anything underneath, like a different color, you'll be able to see through it like that. So you can use these to kind of like add depth to whatever pattern you're making, or you can also just keep them separated so that they stay in the color that you want them to be in. If you want like a richer color, you can also layer over top of the tissue paper with the same color. You see how that now looks a lot more yellow than it did before? Okay, and that's just kind of like the basic idea of like how the like tissue paper and glue are gonna react together. So now we can just start by just trying out patterns of our own. So for this one, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to do like an overlapping pattern. So I'll just do a small line there. Okay, and I'm gonna I'll use black and purple. And I'm gonna maybe go like this. And you most definitely don't have to do a pattern like this, or if you even don't want to do like a mosaic either, that's absolutely fine. This is up to you. This is just more for kind of like inspiration, in case if you do want to try something different. And if you really want to, you could use the glue. You can paint over the tissue paper very gently, and that'll help make sure that it all stays flat on the canvas, and that it won't start to like flip up like how these are here, starting to almost peel. I'm just going to start with like that really short line, and then I'm just going to do another line that runs kind of like parallel to it. And if the squares are a little bit uneven, that's okay, because it actually looks kind of more like it would have looked in ancient Roman times, because although they tried to keep them all around the same size, there were definitely cases where they just couldn't get them to look like the exact same. If it kind of folds over, that's okay too, because then that'll just kind of add extra texture. You can just layer over top of it as well. Okay, we can even add on extra layers as well. I'll just keep on adding layers. You can kind of see, like, you can do lines. If you wanted to do, like, let's try to do like a circle, why not? Now the circles are a little bit trickier since they are round. I'm going to draw my brief glue circle to begin with. Let's see if we can. I'm going to break this one in half. Let's see if we can get this to look curved as we're working. So I'm going to do the same color all the way around, but you can do like overlapping ones like that again. And the pattern should hold up, but it's going to take a little bit of time and like patience though to get what you want. So I'm just going to do like this as a bottom layer, like a base layer, and then I'm going to overlap it so it looks a little bit more even when I go back through. I'm going to make sure it's nice and like flush against the canvas.
Add some more glue. And I think what I'm gonna do is I might just like overlap a color on top of it. We'll see how that'll look. So I'm gonna do like every other one maybe. And then I'm gonna keep layering with the colors. You can bend these two as you are going over them so that they are more curved looking as well to kind of keep that circular shape. Now let me keep on going over top of it. Yeah, so you get the like basic idea of this. How we can kind of see the pink almost making that green lighter, and then we can see the green underneath the pink. And you just keep doing that for like different patterns and stuff. Just make one more there. And if you wanted to as well, you can also try to make like a specific looking picture. And you can try to use the whatever colors that you get to try to replicate it. Okay, so I'll stop there. But so yeah, so that's kind of the idea of how you can get them to look more like uniform as you start to put them onto the canvas. Okay, we're gonna move on for just a moment. Okay, so like I said, you can also try to like mimic shapes as well. This example is a little bit rough, but here is one of the shapes I tried to like mimic, and this is meant to be a Roman flag. So you can take inspiration from like ancient Roman like sculptures or even like ancient Roman mosaics too. You can just take it from other pictures. Like this was just like a picture of what the red flag looked like with the wreath in it. This is a very rough one. We can kind of see this is almost like our bottom layer, and then as I keep adding stuff to it, we can start to like add different like shades and like textures and things like that. But here's like the general outline of what your shape could look like. Okay, and now that our mosaics are done, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all had fun, and I hope that your mosaics turned out pretty well. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.